Okay, so today I will be doing a video about supply and demand and trading card games. So the general idea is when demand is high and supply is low, price is high. And then when demand is low and supply is high, price is low. Very complex terms here. Very complex terms, I know. And usually when prices, supply and demand are equal-ish, there's usually some sort of equilibrium of price. Like, then again, there's probably a lot more factors will play into it then. So the reason I decided to make this video is there was some I didn't really see it, but I saw a person replying to this. But apparently some people were complaining about they were getting Festival Collection 2025, right? And they were complaining about these cards, these boys here, basically the Dual Nation cards were all getting reprinted as triple rares, right? So, and obviously people worry about, oh, supply isn't going to change, like this isn't good, like they need to be reprinted at lower rarities to get the prices down, because the prices are really high. Just a quick look at the prices. So basically, so this boy here, the Dragon Empire / Dark States guy, he was the most expensive on release. So luckily the TCG player tracking thing goes back far enough. This boy was like $30-ish on release. He dropped down to $20 once people opened enough boxes, and ever since the thing stopped being printed, it's been slowly going up and up and up. And I think you'll find the same for the most expensive one as well. Going back, just let it load, going back a year, same thing. It starts off low. It starts off kind of low because people were speculating probably incorrectly on it. Then slowly just drops down a bit as more print, and then slowly skyrockets up. Now, I generally do think there is a concern when it comes to Vanguard with their reprints, as they tend to reprint things at high rarities. Either highest rarity, like so triple rares reprinted as either the highest rarity available in the set or as another triple rare. Generally I'll have issues with that, like these being printed as triple rares in the next one, but specific for this one singular release for Festival 25, I have no issues with it, because if they were reprinted in a reprint slot, they'd be reprinted as RE+, which is with good reprints. So I opened, I think, might be a bit more than 4 boxes of Festival Collection 2024. I got 10 triple rares and 3 RE pluses. So you get less volume if they're in the reprint slot. That's just to dispel any sort of issues people have with that, like these getting reprinted in the triple rare slot's actually good for this type of set. So I want to go back in time a bit. TCG player only goes back in 1 year, right? We're going back further. It was a point in time, going back to Magic, back in ye olde 2020, when the Alliance's version of Force of Will was $130, US dollars that is. And the Eternal Masters, which was a much more modern reprint, was $150. Now the idea here is Eternal Masters is a low print run reprint set, and this is a mythic rare, so it's the max rarity in the set. So the actual volume of these Forces of Will printed is very, very, very low, compared to Alliances, where it's a uncommon printed in a much older set, which also has caveats on it. So it's going to be much more common, which is why the better card, in my opinion, because everyone likes old bordered card, I like old bordered cards, was going to be cheaper. Because there's more of them. But the caveat there is, technically older sets wouldn't have been printed as much as more modern sets. So if this had been reprinted as an uncommon at the same time comparatively to this, it would be dirt cheap. But the idea with Force of Will is every single Legacy deck, well, pretty much every single Legacy deck plays 4 copies of it. If they play blue, they 100% play 4 copies of it. If they don't play blue, they might play 4 copies of it. Maybe. I'd probably see us playing in Vintage, but I generally don't think there's as many Vintage players. And every single blue commander deck where someone's willing to spend money on it, rather than just like actual money on it, they'll have a copy of Force of Will in it. So it has relatively high demand, even though those are fairly... To be honest, the demand isn't actually that high. It was probably higher back in 2020, in a way, or it peaked at 2020, because Legacy would have been easier to get into back then, as with Jordan Tournament anywhere near as expensive as they are these days. Now, Force was actually relatively cheap. Technically, this version's the most expensive, like more expensive than the Eternal Masters one now. If we go to TCG Player, oh, not this, that's for later. It has been reprinted quite a bit more. So it's been reprinted Dominaria Remastered, which I think was this year. Double Masters, which was a couple years back. So it has had 2 more reprints, which were basic. They are technically probably so Double Masters is another sort of lowish print run reprint set, but I think it would have had a higher reprint run than Eternal Masters, and then Dominaria Remastered I think was probably a higher print run again. But yeah, the most expensive normal version of the card is now the one which should be the most expensive. The volume of these will be much higher, and then this one's just dropped down because it's basically just the same as that. And I don't think people really have a difference between Eternal Masters or Double at this point. They don't really care. But yeah, they're way cheaper, like a third of the price they used to be. But I think it's a matter of the supply has increased massively, more than tripled in price. I think the supply would have more than tripled, and the demand's probably quite flat. I don't think the demand would have gone up, and it probably wouldn't have gone down. So that sort of makes sense. The supply's probably tripled, demand's probably the same, and it's about a third of the price. That's kind of interesting when you think about it. The other reason I'm making this video is a card called Eureka. We don't have all that time we can't go back to when she was released in 2022, but on release, around when she was released, she was like $40 US. And she has dropped off for a bit this year. She got reprinted a couple of times. She basically dropped off low for this version, the original version of the card is like $17. And then suddenly the demand has actually increased a lot, right? Now the issue with Eureka is she's always been reprinted as either a triple rare or as an RE+. So they've basically never increased her supply by that much. And they've only ever technically, on a theoretical level, increased the demand for her. Because what she is she is probably the best generic lyrical card. If your deck has spare soul and spare deck slots, you should play her. She's that good. She can protect your units by bouncing them. She gets a decent amount of power. And she's just good. Like, if you can afford to play, which honestly no one can afford to play right now, you should play her. There was definitely a time when she first came out, she was really expensive. I got lucky, and I think I got 4 copies in my 4 boxes of LBTO3. So I was fairly lucky. But then my argument as to why I wasn't going to buy more copies for my other decks is I have multiple lyrical decks. And I hate switching cards around. was that not every deck needed her. Like, she's a really good card, but even if you could use her, you don't necessarily need her. So I think a lot of people would eventually realize that, which is I think why she goes down so low. I think some versions of her went down to like $12. Okay, so what happened is they announced this card. It's quite... And the thing about this, the demand suddenly spiked because of this. And I think it's a combination of everyone wants to play this deck because they think it's good. And it also has a very debilitating control effect, which if you bounce your units, you don't have to worry about, basically. So there's two factors. You have people who have lyrical decks who are worried about playing against it, and then you have people who just want to build the deck itself. And everyone's just buying them. So that's why demand spiked. We went down because people realized they don't actually need it, or they finally managed to get enough copies to switch between the decks, and it went up again because of her. And now I'm going to explain. I have a graph, I have a chart. I handmade this myself. It's a great chart. I love it. And what this is what we're comparing. This is like almost statistics. We're comparing lyrical decks. So every single boss unit they've printed for a lyrical deck, so essentially every potential lyrical deck that exists, except for I think the promo ones, because Highlander I think was released as a promo, right? So every one of those we have, and compared to every single Eureka print run. Now, so the first two lyrical decks, technically the trial deck is included in the second one because I didn't want to make another space. I actually had space in the end, so I could have, but don't worry about that. I thought I didn't have space. So, in the D series, we have LBTO1 has 5 bosses, right? Then we get LBTO2 has another 2 bosses, plus there's also the grade 4 for trial deck. So it's a total of 8 so far, right? And then we get LBTO3. This is where Eureka is printed originally. We get 6 new bosses and her. Now, the bosses and Eureka are printed at exactly the same rarity. So for every playset of Eureka's in existence at this point in time, there is a playset of every single deck in the set. So there's 6 decks with full playsets and 1 playset of Eureka's. So just straight on that, as you understand, there's ignoring the older bosses, so you have the demand is like 6 and the supply is 1. In simple maths. Not all of those decks could actually use her, as I played and still play the bottom 2. Back then, neither of these decks had enough soul to justify playing her, which is why I basically didn't have her in those decks. These days, they've printed enough support that essentially fixes the soul issues with the decks, but then there's so much support to make the decks consistent that there's very little space. So both of those decks have like... I think Kayuka could probably fit a playset, but Mitsu has like 2 slots left open for cards that aren't actual cards she needs to function. So yeah, so not all of these decks actually can use her. Some it's either like, it's just counterproductive, some can't afford her, like from a resource standpoint. Then we've got LBTO4. We've got another 5 decks, which again I played 2 of them, which one of them doesn't use her. Like Labrador has no use for her at all, because all her units bounce themselves. You could probably play her in Pacifica, right? So we've got another 5 decks, and then we've got another playset of Eureka. So, at this point, ignoring the first 2 sets, we currently have 2 playsets. So, for every 2 playsets of Eureka's, we have 11 decks. Okay, so the demand is suddenly like massively outstretching supply. So these aren't all in the same order, as technically the this one comes before both of these two, right? Moving on. We get Festival 2023. Eureka is reprinted as an RE+. RE+, as we talked about, not actually that common. But this set has no new bosses. Technically that's a lie. It has new bosses. It's new versions of the bosses from the first set, this one here. But it's no new decks. It's just new bosses for old decks. Which is why it's not a sad face. It's just neutral. Right? So this technically, even though the supply of the set itself, it's basically a low print run set. Like, it's not that many people go and buy them. And they're kind of expensive. You only get 3 cards per pack. And only one of those cards is going to have any chance of being decent. The other two are probably shit. That's modern festival collections for you. 2 shit cards and 1 good card. Very low print run. Very low commonality in the set. Like, it's rare in the set. So this is the first time ever that Bushiroad has printed Eureka, increased the supply and not increased the demand. First time ever. Festival Collection 2024, same thing. They've increased the supply, they haven't increased the demand. We're on to those Divine series, right? So DZ BTO4, they print 1 deck. They increase the demand by 1. We then get, I think, BTO2. 1 more deck. They increase the demand a bit. Then we get our BTO1. 3 new decks. They increase the demand quite a bit more. Then we go BTO4. 1 more deck. More demand. And then by the time this video comes out, this set will have probably released, which is coming out in 2 days after I'm recording this. More demand. This is the big demand. This is the biggest demand ever in current thing, right? As this increases demand for her as well as increases demand for everything else. So, the point I'm trying to make with this very convoluted chart that I spent not that much time making, it only took me like 5-10 minutes. I enjoyed making it. I like my chart. It's a great chart. An excellent chart. So my issue is, if they had printed Eureka and starting from this set onwards as a double rare, which these days double rares are almost as rare as triple rares, so in one of these sets it would not matter at all. But back then, a double rare Eureka might have actually had 2 playsets for 5 new decks. Right? If they printed her as a common, you'd actually have enough that the price would drop. Like, it would actually be enough supply, but they're not willing to do that. Every time they fucking reprint her. Now we're getting Festival Collection 2025 later on this year. It'll probably be August, September, probably, right? They're probably going to reprint Eureka as an RE Plus again. And honestly, I think they should just get rid of RE Plus. Just stick to REs. There's no point making a difference. And the upside, right, of them printing her in a different rarity is that there's different types of foils of her. Currently, she's printed in triple rares, which have one type of foils. They used to actually have different back in the day, different sets with different foiling. But that's no longer the case. They're kind of shit. And RE Plus, guess what? Has triple rare foiling. So there's only one type of foils for Eureka. Technically, she was printed as a promo. And I don't know if there was a foil promo or not. If it was, it means she got double rare foiling, finally. If it isn't, you get non-foils, which people like non-foils. But yeah. And so that's sort of my issue with Bushiroad. Is basically they never print cards at rarities they need to be printed at. It's like reprints. Like, once you've done your initial printing, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be max rarity. Like, just let everyone else have them. Like, when you first print a card, you can print it at max rarity. All the rich people will just buy them all up. The demand for it will be kind of high if it's good. And for all the people who can't afford to spend all that money, give them a cheap version of a card later on, like, please. Another thing to mention is the effect triggers, just to briefly go into them without explaining them. So effect crits were originally printed in DBTO3, right? As single rares. So if you bought like 4 boxes, you'd have a playset of every single one. So it's a playset of 5 cards. They last got reprinted in DBTO3 as a special sort of rares plus slot, right? And it wasn't just for crits, it was crits, fronts, and draws. So there's currently, I don't know if it was the lyrical ones as well, but basically it's 15 to 18 cards. Instead of getting one per box, one of each per box, you're getting 2 to 3 of cards of their rarity per box. So like and those are cards where every single deck needs 4 copies basically. At least for crits, right? For crits, 100% you need 4 copies in every deck. You can just play them, there's no downside. Everyone should have them. They don't print them at low rarities. They are getting reprinted in this set though. I'm pretty sure it's still a very similar thing where it's like they're not going to be that common. And it's kind of ridiculous. And people hate on Wizard because of how shit they are at printing cards. But and Bushiroad used to be a lot worse. At least they are reprinting cards, but like it's just insane. And then also in my discussion or interactions about all this, or maybe do this, there was the cabal of evil people who buy things out to resell them for a profit, and it was called a conspiracy theory. There is a big but here. Speculators. Speculators exist. Trading card game investors exist. Usually they're magic investors, but they fucking invest every other game and make them worse. Any game with a card investment issue, as anyone who currently follows Pokemon know about, just ruin everything. They ruin everything. I hate fucking card investors, but they fucking exist. Sometimes it does seem like there's lots of people just buying cards out and relisting them. Sometimes I think it does happen. If these people didn't exist, 50 Cards, which is a card store, wouldn't have buy limits on cards. They have a 10. You can only, in one order, you can only buy a maximum of 10 copies of a card. Why is that? The reason that is because the owner of that store wants everyone to have a chance of getting those cards. So he's clearly had an issue with people just buying out entire stocks before. So these people exist. You can't say they don't exist. Well, maybe they're not actually actively buying out of the Yukis and trying to resell them. Maybe they didn't do it to the grade 1 stroke average. But they do exist. You can't say they don't exist. But yeah, that is the end of this long-winded video about supply and demand, trading cards, people who ruin trading card games by investing in products, Bushiroad sucking at reprinting cards. But yeah, if you have any of your own thoughts about reprints, it could be about any card game actually. Is there a card game that does reprints you actually like? Or do you have other card games you know of which also suck at reprinting cards? Just let me know in the comments. It'd be good to get more viewpoints on things. But yeah, thank you for coming, and I will see you all next time. I appreciate you being here.